Hello friends, welcome to Akulmach business channel, and today we have a very important subject to discuss, that is value of your friend circle and also value of your connections. And to discuss this subject I will be joined by a very eminent global speaker, Mr. Kevin Cottam, who is joining us from Portugal. So let's welcome him. Hello Kevin, welcome to the show. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Chandra. Thank you so much for asking. And it's a beautiful day in Portugal today, lovely and sunny, and there's a beautiful breeze.
Well, lucky you, because we are going through the monsoons here in India. But talking about the weather system, I think we should rather focus on the value of connections and value of our friendship. So, you have any thoughts on this subject? How we can leverage our connections and friendship in today's context?
Sure. I would love to chat with you about this. I think that connections are one thing. I will talk about friendship, and that is a part of connections and the energetic flow that is important with this. So let us talk about friendships. Now, many of us have had long time friends with people. This last weekend, I had a reunion, and I think that was absolutely an amazing experience. One of the people was the person that I grew up next to. In fact, I was born 6 months after she was born, and we lived next door to each other. So we've known each other that length of time since birth. Now, it's not often that you find that in this world, that we find that we're still friends with somebody like that. But so interestingly enough, I'm a global nomad, love to travel. She's a travel agent and she loves traveling. So how did that work? Who knows, that connection in that particular realm? And so maybe that is what also has pulled us together. But this last weekend, we had this reunion. And we've always wanted to travel together. At some point, we keep saying, oh, when are we going to go on a travel? Anyway, myself and her and she and her ex-boyfriend from 1977 or before 1977, we were all together in Porto. The first time the three of us have been together since then. Now, how wonderful is that? I mean, it's just a beautiful time and beautiful experience. I mean, we got together and it was like it was 1977. It was just the same energy, the same feeling, the same connections, the same everything. It was one of those. And I'm sure, Chandra, you have that as well, when you don't see someone for a long time and all of a sudden you just pick up like it was just yesterday. And these are the amazing connections of the soul. And this is what is so vital in our life. COVID has put a bit of a kibosh on some of that, and now we're able to see people and to be able to be close to them, and not just on Zoom and whichever, which is another way of us connecting. But let us go back to that whole feeling of what it feels like. I mean, for me, I'm not sure about you and everyone else that's watching, but it is that feeling of the touching of the soul, the touching of the heart. It's also the touching of the mind. It is this not only touch, physical touch, but the touch inside of us. It's a sensorial experience in many ways. It is that taste of feeling of love as well, because there is an inner love for that person. So are those people. And so we did a lot of things on the weekend. On one day, we did everything, it seemed, and talked in Porto. And then by the beach, we had lunch. And then in the evening, I went as well to watch sunset and have a picnic on the beach with one of them. And it was just marvelous. And then the next day, I spent it just with my other friend, who was my longtime friend, Jeanette. But we had wonderful conversations. Not like we had at home, but different conversations. And this was magic. It was just so magical. And I'm sure that everyone has had these experiences. But just think, I thought about it. And one of them said, we may not have this experience again in life. And that became very, very sad in some ways. Because when you look at the period of life, and we had not met in those, 45 years, together, it may not happen again. As my friend said, the squares on the toilet roll become less and less as you get older. And so therefore there's less possibilities. But then you really have to make it happen. You have to make it happen somehow, if that's what you truly, really want. And so I think that there's a piece there of connection, but understanding that we need to do it at any time. We cannot put things in the way to stop us. Of course, the universe will enact and allow us to meet only when the right time is, like this was the right time. We're all in Porto at the same time. How is that a possibility? But the point here is about allowing it to happen and creating it to happen. That's just like we do, is making goals and and trying to make that happen. But we get busy in our lives, our separate lives, and we forget about it. But this is the richness of our lives. It's not just the work, which is the richness. It is the friendships. And we talk about family. Family is one thing, but sometimes we forget about family and friendship within the family as well. And that is important. And sometimes in some families, they don't have friends and they're not friends with each other, and they sometimes separate in families. I know from a very young age, for example, myself, is that my two sisters were much older than me. And they were out of the house by the time I was 6 years old. So I was basically brought up by my mother, and I was brought up alone. My father was working away and only would come home on weekends. So it was a separated family in many ways. But at some point I said, my family is going to be my friends. And that is what I've created all my life, all around the world as a global nomad. I have people everywhere, and I feel so excited by that. But those people I can just pick up at any time with. And in fact, I'm doing another reunion in September, the beginning of September, with two ladies that I danced with at the Moulin Rouge. And it was going to be so much fun. One of them lives in Hawaii, one lives in Basel, and I'm here in Portugal. And we haven't been together for years. I can't remember the number of years. But this is one of those things that it's about, really important about friendships. It's that love, it's that connection. It's the energetic connection. It is about feeling on the same level. It is that, that touch. And I say that touch is, what is that? It's that je ne sais quoi, as they say in French. What is it? And this is the magic of life. And we must always cherish it and always think about it. So think about it for yourselves. Think about the friends that you haven't talked to. Think of the friends you haven't seen. Get out there, do something, meet up. COVID stopped us, as I said earlier. But don't let it stop you anymore, because, as I mentioned before, the toilet roll runs out at some point in the time, and we say, oh no, I should have. Oh, that person passed away. Oh, I should have. I even talked to a friend of mine the other day. He's an Indian fellow, and he's 82 years old. He's my mentor. He lives in Singapore and Malaysia. And he says, I'm meeting with a friend of mine I haven't seen since I was 13. The first time. He said, I looked for him on Facebook, and he's now going to be in Singapore, and we're going to meet up. And he said, I'm so excited by this. But just think, Facebook is another way of reconnecting. And it's about, if you lose people and they come across your mind, why do they come into your head? It's to be able to spend time with them, to look them up. Spend the time. Don't just say, oh, I'll do that some other time. Because another time may not come. We have to honor that within ourselves. Life is short. We think about it as we grow early in our lives. It's going to go on forever. No, it's not going to go on forever. We don't know what the universe has in store for us all. It's the same with friendship at work, right? It's friendship. Some people say, oh, I don't want to be friends at work. I want to just get on with things. I'm just there. It's not part. But you know what? You bring your world, yourself to work. And that work is that pleasure, hopefully, in what you're doing. And that also brings your friendship, because friendship lives inside of you. And that's
Well,
what you're looking for, right?
absolutely. I fully understand the feeling that you're describing. It's like getting to know your friend while you are young, and getting to know them as today, but the feelings that you had 30 years back. But as you know that and you also mentioned about the universe. Universe has a way to bring people together. Uh, Now I have to ask you one question, which is now bugging me for quite some time, which is which is about why not use the digital media to have a reunion, reconnect with friends. For example, you mentioned you have one friend living in Hawaii and other one in Basel in Switzerland. Why can't you use Zoom connection to have a reunion? Do you think that is a good idea or a bad idea? What do you think?
I think these are all wonderful ideas, but the most important one is actually physically being next to the person. There is this, Chandra, this is great being with you this way, but I would love to be in India and sit down and chat with you and just be there with you, because there's a different connection, there's a different energy, and we get to sense each other in a different way, because there is this line between us, and it's this technology, which is as they say, it's you have to, in theater, you have to be past the proscenium. You need to go past the wall, and that wall is the proscenium into the crowd. And it's the same thing. It's very difficult on the digital media to get past that wall. However, you're right. This could be the interim, and this could be the setup to see someone. And you're right. I mean, that's why we have social media. That's why we have, Facebook, Instagram, we have TikTok, we have everything is really about connecting with friends as well. But sometimes we don't use that as friends. We use that as mass spread out of ourselves. And then, there's so many people interconnecting. But a lot of the time we may connect just briefly, but not so. So for example, I have friends on Facebook from Victoria, my old skating days, and they're getting less and less. But when I go back to Victoria, we always have a little reunion, because we know that it's so fun to get together and to see what everyone is doing. And we do. And that is, I believe, so touching in this world.
Well, definitely the physical touch cannot be substituted. Absolutely no second for that. Uh, in fact, I would like to pick your mind sometime in future, not today, about this simulation. Are we living in simulated world? So if we are, simulated beings, then the world is moving towards virtual reality and augmented reality. So do you feel that maintaining your connections virtually, will it be the norm in coming future, or it will be like the good old days where you have to travel, catch a bus, take a train, take a tube, and meet your friends? What do you think?
Well, Chandra, I think that if we become completely digitally connected, and then we have missed the whole concept of life and why we are in these human bodies, and our human bodies are to move, and our human bodies are not to just see things visually and to I see through artificial reality, or and it's that is a tool for seeing something. It is not the true reality. The reality is getting outside, and seeing nature and being with nature. This is the human experience, is about being human and using our physical being, our mental being, our hearts. And this is important. If we become so digitally crazed, I sense we'll be lost. There's no point in having these physical beings. We may as well just be pieces of ether in that sense, or just sort of cosmic beings, or maybe that we can beam ourselves up into some sort of, like Star Wars or Star Trek, and so that's a different thing. And I don't want to spend my time constantly in that realm. And I also think that what people are seeing, for example, about people spending time in front of the computer, and this is a physical aspect of your body starts to malform. You're rounding the shoulders, you're doing all sorts of things. And this comes into it, is that the body wants to move. It doesn't want to sit all the time. And COVID showed us we were sitting a lot, right? And that also has an impression on not on our expression of ourselves, but also our breathing. It's our health at the same time. And and that doesn't help us in when we talk about friendships. It really shifts everything. It is about the connection. Connection, 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 heart connection, mind connection, physical connection. We have the great thing, what you're talking about, Chandra, is we have options. So we can play life in different options. And that I think is great. But it's like anything, getting seduced or certainly addicted to one type of technology or one type of event or even a drug or alcohol is not particularly good for us either. But friendship is fantastic.
Well, I think you are making a lot of sense. And for people who are uh, friendly with virtual techniques for communication, the Coke has realized there is an opportunity and they have launched their digital drink. It's called Pixel. It costs $1. And if you're joining digitally with your friends, you can order the Pixel online and drink it probably if you have the right tools with you. But moving on from friendship to connections, what I have seen is that whatever connections you had before the pandemic, if they are not digitally available, those connections are not working for you today. So, what is the way out? I mean, friendship, I fully agree with you. You have to have physical connection with friends, but then there are other social connections and business connections. Those connections, if they have not successfully moved onto digital bandwagon, they are not helping you in your business. Do you think this is the right statement?
I think, yeah, I mean, I think personally, some people are fighting the whole idea of connections and digitizing and the digital transformation. However, I think it's getting less and less. And of course, certainly with the generations, the younger generations, that's really what they know most of. And sometimes to the detriment of connections in many ways, or even the touch, because I have a friend now that he has on WhatsApp just put chat only. He doesn't want to talk to anybody, and he won't even let me talk to him. So it's a strange scenario, and this is happening, and with different people around the world. And that is then to me is a withdrawal. We cannot withdraw from the world, and we cannot play in this fantasy. I mean, we do, but the thing is that in the business world, I believe very much that you need to be connected, and that is the place. Like LinkedIn is a very good place for people to become connected, and that is one way of doing business and whichever. But I think that there's also that sense of how do we connect? How do we express ourselves? How do we want to show up on somebody's doorstep in the digital world? And, do we come pushing our stuff? Do we come as gentle as possible? Because a lot of the time, people are getting so inundated today with so many connections, but they don't mean anything. They just, I want to connect, but that's it. It's like numbers, and we talk about numbers. And we talk about relevance, all right? LinkedIn, whichever, how many people are in your connections? It's numbers. Now that's a bit cold, and most of those people, 5,000, 6,000, 10,000, like, do you know any of them? Perhaps not. How many people of those do you actually know that you've even had a conversation with? It doesn't make any difference then, because then what does that do for connection? That just means building your database, perhaps, which is fine if you have another way then of connecting with them. It is one of those pieces that you talk about, Chandra, which is in the ether, is how to really make those connections strong. And I think most of us are struggling with that. I know I struggle with it at the same time, because I'm not one to go to a party, for example, and talk to everyone. I get into a great conversation, and somebody would say, well, a friend of mine, if I go with them, why aren't you just spreading yourself around, like networking? And I go, well, you know what? I've really enjoyed this person. So everyone is different. Some people are butterflies. Some of them just moving all around like fireflies. Must meet as many people. But how do you want to meet them? what makes the impact and what is actually what will transform that connection into business. What makes that magic? And that is, that is what we all are looking for and trying to achieve. And I don't think there's any magic bullet or, that they talk about to be able to do it. It is how you as an individual have heart for others, how you want to connect with this person, what is within that person that you see that you would like to know about or to find out. It's about questioning, it's about getting curious. This is what will help that connection. It's not about saying, okay, I come at you, I'm going to push this. This is what I want you, this is what I do. This is what, I think would be great for you. I've looked at your profile. And most of the people have not looked at your profile because these are bots, right? And so how many times I have looked at these people that want to be connections with me, and it's like, you don't know my business. I'm not in finance and I'm not looking at that. Oh, sorry. Well, you've just wasted some of my time at the same time and annoyance at the same time. This is not connecting. This is annoyance for a lot of people. So I think we have to be careful. I think we have to be attentive. I think also it is about understanding the other side at the same time as moving into using our capabilities of being friendly, our capabilities of being heartfelt, rather than just pointed on money or this project. And that is exactly what we know behind every one of the talks, every one of the connections, pretty much. But for me, one of the things that I did, and I'm not sure if anyone else has done this, is the connections were wonderful during COVID. And because we were locked in, I would approach some people that I'd seen and watched from afar on the line, and I liked what they say, and I would connect, and I would comment and all this. And then I would ask them, would you like to go on a walkie-talkie? And this is one thing that I would do, is we would just go walking in some of the parks and we just talk and find out about each other, or maybe see if there's any business ultimately that might come from it. And that is a great way of doing it. If you're in the same city, of course. If you're not, then it's a bit of a problem. But that's how I would go about it, is creating these walkie-talkies. Because in fact, this is one of the great things about business, is that when you are in a business, it's about walkie-talkie. It is about one of the ways of actually getting creative in your conversations. It's one way of getting to know, but it's also physical at the same time. So you're getting your exercise, but you're also just really spending some time with this person. And walking the halls, as they say, of your organization, walking it with someone, walking with a meeting, say, okay, and say, let's not sit down and have this meeting here. Let's just go for a walk around the building, And people find this weird still today, but it's actually one of the best ways of having a meeting, walking meetings. This builds a friendship, this builds energy, this builds all sorts of connections. So it's like the Maasai or like the nomads. That's how they go. They go on walkies and they talk. So yeah,
it's a fantastic point of view you are giving. I think the world is still evolving. The digital world is still evolving. The evolution is not completed yet, I think. But sorry, I interrupted you. You were saying something. Please continue.
No. Go ahead.
Okay, so my point is that the points that you have mentioned today, they are very, very relevant. People have to understand the importance of connection, and they should not be connecting with irrelevant people, because if their business is X, they should not be connecting Y people. I think they have to start looking at X, because that is what the pain point your solution, your services is solving, and that is where your audience are. I think that is the understanding people must have, in my opinion. But what is your opinion on this? The last comments from you.
I mean, I'm in accordance with what you're saying there, Chandra. It is important. And because that's where we are today. And however, what I'm saying also is suggesting is that there's not just one way. There are multiple ways to connect. There are multiple ways to meet up. There are multiple ways, and they're being offered everywhere. You just have to find what works for you and you feel comfortable with. Don't try to have everything, like all of the candy in the shop. No, because then you won't be able to focus. Focus on the nice chocolate bar, perhaps, or a truffle chocolate. Just a few things. And that's the relationship of the technology and the apps. So, but I would suggest to you also, everyone, is to understand and think, ask yourself, when you talk about friendship, when was the last time you saw and expressed and met up with a very long time friend, or even a short time friend? Make these appointments in our lives. I mean, it sounds funny, I'm making appointments, but make these rendezvous, as we say. But also in your office, make an appointment to connect with somebody. If you don't know them and you think, oh, they're doing some interesting work, let me see about finding out what they're doing. Don't stay in your own little silo, your own little desk. Reach out, because there's lots of people doing fascinating things, and people have very interesting lives. And one of the things that got, when I was doing research for my book, The Nomadic Mindset, I really realized that actually reaching out and getting curious, people love to talk about what they do, right, Chandra? They love to talk about what they're doing. And it's the appreciation, and also knowing that somebody's thinking, oh gosh, they're interested in what I do, and because sometimes you feel like you're in a bubble in many ways. So friendship, reach out, connect. It's all energy. Find the apps and find the different technologies, the platforms that work for you, and make sure that you connect with someone. In fact, I'm going to give you a challenge. Who's that one person you're going to connect with today, right now, after the show?
Well, I've got a lot of ideas, very frankly, after talking to you, and I am going to tell you my plans, maybe offline. I think this is a very nice conversation, and this has given me a lot of ideas to reconnect with those people whom I miss dearly.
Fantastic.
So it was a pleasure talking to you, Kevin. It was lovely, and I think your conversation has definitely stirred a string, and a lot of people who are watching this will definitely start meeting a lot of people, a lot of their friends, and a lot of their connections. Just in case, if they want to take your help, is there a mechanism where they can reach out to you? Is there a website where they can reach out to you?
Yeah, one of the best things is my website. It's www.thenomadicmindset.com. However, like most emails on those, the connecting emails, they are going so rapidly with junk that it's very hard for me to wade through them. So I would suggest the best way is LinkedIn for me, is to contact me at Kevin Cottam there. And that would be the best way. Or on Instagram, it's the same, Kevin Cottam, or Facebook. Those are the better now than the emails, because God help us.
Yes. I think it has meaning behind it, and you don't want to waste your time clearing the junk. So great talking to you, Kevin, and thanks for all the wisdom that you provided. But we will catch you in the next one. For today, I'd like to say goodbye.
Thank you so much, Chandra, and wonderful. What a great friend.
So friends, we had a fantastic discussion with Kevin Cottam. He actually gave us a lot of ideas, and some of these ideas may be relevant for us to energize our friend circles and connections. So if you have any thoughts, do send in your comments. And as always, thanks for watching, and I will catch you again in the next one.